Spider Pig.
Spider Ham. Spider Ham.
Spider Ham.
That's whatever a Spider Pig does. Sorry.
Can he swing from a web? No, he can't. He's a pig. Look out.
That's so good.
Okay, so my rejoice, and this is something I touched on on a different podcast, but Spider-Man is a classic example of learning to choose what we did not choose. The whole story of any Spider-Man is kid who's, a little bit below average, or considered somewhat below average in some ways, gets bit by this radioactive spider and becomes extraordinary, becomes spectacular, becomes amazing, and has to learn to deal with those repercussions, has to deal with this major change, this transference of power from this magic radioactive spider to Spider-Man or Spider-Woman. Spider-Gwen, yeah. So they didn't choose this life. They didn't try to make these powers happen. They're not Tony Stark. They're not Bruce Wayne. They're not Captain America, who are, not trying to sign up for this kind of thing. It's somebody who has been gifted or afflicted with this thing and is now burdened to carry out, with great power comes great responsibility, and having to carry that out. And so, you can, in the midst of that, you can choose to whine and complain about it and not step into the responsibility that are kind of thrust upon you. Or you can choose to accept and say, you know what? Okay, this is what's happened, and I am Spider-Man now. This is what's happened to me, and this is the path I'm going to take. I'm going to do what's good and right in the midst of it. And that is what makes Spider-Man Spider-Man. And that's just something to rejoice in, because it's like Connor was saying before we had gotten started about the reason why Spider-Man works as a character is because he's so relatable.
Yeah.
And I think not only is he relatable, but he's somebody that we envision ourselves trying to become, of someone that we look up to and want to be. There's right at the end of the movie, there's a Stan Lee quote.
Oh, such a good quote.
That the quote is, "That person who helps others simply because it should or must be done, and because it is the right thing to do, is indeed without a doubt a real superhero." And I think that that's, something that should be celebrated, something that should be rejoiced in.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I thought that a couple things. One, more on the character side of things. All the alternate Spider-Mans and Spider people, I guess, that we see throughout this movie are really interesting. I love the different variations of each one, and specifically the John Mulaney Spider-Ham, which we've already, mentioned a ton.
Only a few times.
Was so creative and just so well done. It was excellent. But I really like the Nicolas Cage Spider-Man.
The black and white one.
The Spider-Man, I think it was Noir or something like that. A couple of quotes from him. He says when they're in Aunt May's house and they're about to fight, and she's like, "Can you take this outside, please?" And he said, "We don't pick the ballroom, we just dance." It's just like, oh, that's such a good quote. But the quote that I really want to rejoice from that character is when they're peppering Miles Morales when they're in the basement of Peter Parker's lair, or whatever you want to call that.
Spider cave.
Yes, that. I
don't know.
And they're kind of seeing if he's going to get up, right? And they're picking on him. They're kind of keep hitting him, knocking him down. Can you do this? Can you do that? Can you do this? Can you do that? And he can't do any of it because he's just became
Spider-Man.
He's just got powers, and now they're and the weight of the world is on his shoulders and their shoulders, and they're trying to see if he's dependable, and he's just not there yet. Yeah. But one of the questions that he asks, and I think it's kind of a throwaway because it happened so fast, but I was like, oh, is he said, "Can you close off your feelings so you don't get crippled by the moral ambiguity of your violent actions?" And on the one hand, I was like, that's that's really funny. And then, but on the other hand, I was like, finally a superhero movie that names this tension.
Yeah.
Because when I'm watching, superhero movies, Marvel movies, even just like not superhero movies, where
Space
it's
Wizard
good
games.
guys versus bad guys, and there's so much violence and death that we're kind of desensitized to it, or it's shown off camera and we don't really think about it. We don't think about the implications of all these minor characters or these extras that just get plowed through, just like killed or whatever it is. And oftentimes, obviously, that's not the main point of the movie for us to think about. So our attention gets directed elsewhere. But I think it's something to be aware of. And so I want to name it as good that even quickly that's named in this.
You can't get through a battlefield without at least having a couple scars.
Yeah. And just understanding the ramifications of, even within a story like this, they're just telling a story, right? But even within the storytelling of this, when we think about violence, even if we feel like it's righteous and it's deserved, right? Or it's justified, that still has tremendous consequences for everyone involved. So I wanted to name that as a good tension to be aware of as we consume media and pop culture and violent video games or violent movies or violent TV shows, is to just be aware. Are we being desensitized to killing and violence in an unhealthy way? So I thought that was cool. So
I thought you were going to bring out his moment where he's freaking out over the Rubik's Cube.
Yeah.
Also,
I
he's
thought-
like, is this purple?
what is this? I'm going to bring it back and study it.
So good.
Did you have
So
something,
good.
Jake?
Yeah, I realized it may have had some ups and downs, but I really loved the mentorship of Miles Morales. Because not only was it just the one-on-one, but it really showed it takes a village. The more people we can have investing in our lives that we trust, obviously, because there are going to be some people out there that really aren't out for our own benefit. But if we surround ourselves with people that only want the best for us, that's what's going to help us grow the most. My other point that I wanted to bring up, just kind of not only with that, but he got to learn by the end of it. So all the other spider people went back to or not even people, because one of them's a pig.
That's true.
Well, the other spider beings.
There you go. Spider beings.
Spider beings. When they go back to their own dimensions, it's like Miles had that understanding that, even though I'm alone, I know I'm not alone. And I think this is where I was going. And I think with that in the church, it's something that the church used to do. But it's easy to forget. Because back let me hit you with some church history nerd stuff. Back whenever it was really just the Catholic Church, you were kind of not required, but required to go to the church that was closest to you. It was your parish. That's the one in your neighborhood. The pastor took care of just that neighborhood. And it was good. It created a good sense of community. But the Protestant church since then has kind of stepped away from that. Now we have cars and we can drive to whatever church we want. And I think the thing that we need to remember, the thing that's easy to forget, is that our church is our community, even outside those church doors. Even whenever I'm going about my own job and the people I see at church aren't there with me, they are still my people. They're still my community. So I rejoiced in that it was that moment of feeling like, hey, I may be alone, but I know I'm not alone. Mm-hmm. I love that.
Yeah. Jordan, do you have anything else you wanted to rejoice?
Just keep going was a good quote, a good thought. I'm like, there's a lot that you could play with that. I got a lot to that. Not everything works out, kid. Another great thing. There's a lot to chew on there. But my favorite of the little quotes that I wrote down that I wanted to bring up is in relation to your favorite spider or spider entity. And it's when he says, "That's all, folks." And then Miles' response is he allowed to say that legally?
Yeah. Especially since the pig said it or the ham said it. Yeah.
But it's okay. He didn't stutter, so it's fine. There was no bitty. That's all, folks.
Is he allowed to say that legally? Just break the fourth wall.
So good. We talk about just keep going is a little simpler than with great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah, right. I wanted to name to rejoice when I don't remember at what point, it's earlier on in the movie, but Miles Morales is talking to his mom in his bedroom and says something about ever thought about leaving Brooklyn. Like Miles asks his mom that, and she says, like pretty lovingly, but like, our family doesn't run from things, Miles. You know that. I thought that was refreshing and challenging, but good as people of God, right? Oftentimes we're placed in situations or seasons of struggle and hardship, and where things are difficult, and we kind of do some different things. I think we can fight it, right? So we can be kind of abrasive and kind of get really edgy.
What are you talking about?
Right. Yeah, we can run from it, so we can withdraw from it. Or I think, and this is part of why we're doing this pod, right, is we can engage with it. Like, we can engage with people. We can engage with the people that think differently than us. We can work towards the redemption of the place that we are in currently as people of God, filled with the Spirit of God. So I really thought that was good to think about our family. We don't run from things, Miles. This is who we are. We're here. We're not leaving when things get hard. Yeah. We're in it.
Especially in a culture that has so many options to run away or be abrasive with. It's good to recognize that oftentimes the only way out is through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like childbirth.
What a segue into rejection.
Thank you for that image.
Don't picture that, people. Let's just move on.